The next speaker is the Honorable Gama.
Honorable Speaker, President Ramaphosa, honorable members, patriots and citizens of our great nation. I rise on behalf of the MK Party to give a perspective and dissect the underlying mechanics of budget vote number 1, the presidency. Honorable Speaker, what we are debating here today is not just a budget. It is the financial architecture of a parallel state, a budget that funds insulation, protects inefficiency, and advances elite consolidation under the guise of reform. Let us be clear. This presidency budget is not only economically indefensible, but is legally and institutionally corrosive. Under the veil of reform, we are watching the calculated erosion of constitutional accountability and the quiet transfer of state levers to unaccountable corporate fora and consultant ecosystems. Khalil Gibran, writing on deception in The Prophet, says, and I quote, "The reality of the other person lies not in what he reveals to you, but what he cannot reveal to you. Therefore, if you would understand him, listen not to what he says, but rather on what he does not say." Close quotes. Honorable members, allow me to start where the deception is most technical and most dangerous, Operation Vulindlela. Launched with fanfare, presented on a cross-cutting reform initiative, and now in the second phase, Operation Vulindlela has become the Trojan horse of neoliberal structural privatization. By way of a short case study, under Operation Vulindlela, a policy decision has been taken to depoliticize the supply of public services such as water supply by transferring operations to the private sector while retaining infrastructure ownership in government, under the guise that the state has insufficient funds to fund traditional public goods. Basic infrastructure has deliberately been ignored and not funded over the past 7 years in sectors such as water, electricity, logistics. This then qualifies them as the low-hanging fruits of Operation Vulindlela. The Constitution of South Africa guarantees the right to access to adequate water. However, the privatization of water services motivated by maximization of profit frequently undermines this right. South Africa faces significant backlogs in water infrastructure development.
Gama,
Yes.
please just pause for a moment and take your seat. I have a hand on the virtual platform. Honorable Letsi, why do you want to be recognized?
Thank you very much. I wanted to check if Honorable Gama's bail condition allows him to debate in the House.
No, Honorable Letsi, that's not a point of order. Honorable Gama, please continue.
South Africa faces significant backlogs in water infrastructure development and maintenance. Most of our municipalities are cash-strapped. Water concessions such as the Slulumanzi in Nelspruit and the Dolphin Ilembe district concessions have been used as pilot projects for the commodification of water. While these pilot projects offer more efficient billing and collection systems and reduce water leakages, private concessions tend to be more costly as they emphasize full cost recovery and foreclose lower income households. However, like everything else, this policy ignores the character of the economy of South Africa. The majority of the black population are unemployed and remain outside the catchment of the productive economy. It lacks of social equity, ignores affordability, and is devoid of human rights concerns, which militate against privatization of water, which results in elevated tariffs and installation of prepaid meters. Low-income citizens struggle with high basic household costs, leading to disconnections which negatively impact their socio-economic rights and health. The legacy of apartheid water access looms large, and the privatization of water exacerbates racial and class inequalities. Yet, through Operation Vulindlela, significant policy decisions have been taken to privatize and thus commodify the public good called water. No consultation with communities took place, and neither is there effective governance, transparency of contracts, or proper regulation put into place before jeopardizing the crucial constitutional right to water. Those in parliament will often attest never being consulted on the privatization of water distribution to communities. Now, I just want to turn and assist a few people here who have a lull. In 2015, which was the last year that the indefatigable Lucky Montana ran PRASA, there were 542 million passenger trips on our railways. By 2019, this had reduced to 200 million after the butcher of SOEs, Popom Life, had taken over. Nowadays, in 2025, PRASA is battling to reach 70 million trips, which is 12% of the capacity it had in 2015. Yet some of you will come to this house and blame Montana. He left PRASA 10 years ago, and no one since that day has reached the staggering records he and his team were able to achieve. Between 2016 and 2018, Brian Molife managed to stop load shedding, President. And for more than 540 days, South Africa forgot what load shedding is. It was to return in May 2018 when new president started preaching a new dawn, which has proved to be a long night. We experienced up to level 6 load shedding until 2024, when the Andrew Director left. The CEO who had been hired by this administration, he was actually writing a book instead of running ESCOM. In 2018, when Transnet was glorious and on the ascent, it carried 226 million tons on its railways and made a profit of 5 billion rand. Today, after this administration had to create a business case for what it would term state capture, again bringing the butcher of SOEs, who ejected all the skilled personnel, Transnet was brought to its knees and could only carry 151 million tons last year and a staggering loss of 7 billion rand. This is 35% less than it carried during the glorious years of 2017, 2018. 2 days ago, Transnet was downgraded by Standards & Poor's. And they cited that it is unlikely to meet the target tonnage that it had set for itself. On the 22nd of February 2018, SARS reached the 1 trillion mark for the third consecutive year under Commissioner Moyane, and yet a judge was hired to rubbish all the achievements he had made. That is the nature of New Dawn South Africa. Successful Black executives who have backbones and refuse to be assimilated are identified, tainted, harassed, and humiliated so that no Black child can have a positive role model. Today, lies are being told, but the numbers do not lie. SOEs were deliberately brought to their knees so that a new trick called Operation Vulindlela could be hatched. You are opening the privatization path for the rich elites to consolidate their wealth to the continued exclusion of the masses of our people. According to its own documents, the presidency and treasury have used Operation Vulindlela to fast-track the corporatization of the National Ports Authority, vertically separate Transnet Freight Rail, formalize the National Transmission Company of South Africa, restructure the ESCOM grid, and create PSP units housed in the DBSA and water boards, all outside the scrutiny of Parliament. In other words, it is a project that outsources state power, re-engineers public ownership, and neutralizes public accountability through reform milestones and asserts privatization as the panacea for all of the country's economic ills. As an example, and this is by no means exhaustive, the vertical separation of Transnet Freight Rail is ill-advised. Breaking up of a network industry whose costs remain low as a result of economies of scale, where fixed costs can be spread proportionally based on more volumes carried by rail, will result in higher costs to consumers. However, the presidency is hell-bent on selling the country's crown jewels and will even do so without a proper business case which would have informed it that the lack of densification of commodities in the rail space militates against breaking freight rail at this point. Private companies will have to charge more as the rail infrastructure provider's source of income will shift to access fees. By 2029, this government will have to subsidize the Transnet Freight Rail Infrastructure Manager upwards of 30 billion rand per annum. And like British Rail, we will recognize the folly of this premature move later. This has not been provided for in the budget simply because the consultants are less than frank when providing advice to government. Whether it is at water boards or at Eskom or Transnet, there is no substitute for placing competent boards of directors and competent managers to lead the business and then drive the correct KPIs to meet societal expectations. Eskom has proved that with a competent chairperson and board, as well as recruiting knowledgeable CEO skills in the form of Dan Marokane, the entity can be turned around swiftly. This country does not need Operation Vulindlela. Izimboni zombuso sezithengiselwa labo abangenankosi, labo abangenaso isilo. The Operation Vulindlela process was not publicly debated in this house. It was introduced in the back door and repeated many times that people who do not know what it is will easily say, we remember the word, but they do not know what the program is. It was not subjected to socio-economic impact assessments. No business cases exist that have been publicly scrutinized, except data from sweetheart consultants who were hired to drive transfer of state assets into private hands. This is a neo-colonial and neoliberal agenda with a high price to pay for the country in the future. And we do not say that there are no industries that would benefit from privatization, but wholesale privatization as driven by Operation Vulindlela undermines the state's ability to drive economic growth through state-led investment and creating a responsible developmental state. The Vulindlela process is privatization by stealth, hidden in plain sight. It is administered through the National Treasury and Presidency-sponsored TBSA PSP unit and informed by consultants paid through undisclosed contractual mechanisms. This, honorable members, is real state capture. I repeat, a state of capture which uses legislative reform and policy abstraction. It is harder to see, but far more difficult to reverse. Imagine if we had sold SAA for 51 rand as approved by the cabinet, and then 2 years later it makes 250 million rand profit. If it was this parliament that probed the Takatso deal and stopped it, and that saved the day. What we are witnessing is what legal professionals have correctly termed a soft coup, the systematic privatization of the state without the political cost of saying so. A submission by concerned legal professions to the Portfolio Committee on Transport makes sobering reading. It alleges coercive NDAs being used to silence whistleblowers within Transnet, the circumvention of procurement protocols, and a quiet corporatization of logistics through shadow structures like the National Logistics Crisis Committee, a body that does not appear in any law but acts with the authority of cabinet. The NLCC has an incestuous relationship with both BUSA, which front-loads business for South Africa, an entity with no legal persona as well, or standing under any laws of our country, as well as with the interim rail regulator. And all this is funded and sustained by Budget Vote 1. Honorable Speaker, Vote 1 is where the parallel state predominates. The presidency budget for 25-26 total 747 million. Of that, over 654 million is allocated to administration, mostly more than 561 staff, strategic communications, consultants, and outsourced services. More than 83 million is allocated to travel and subsistence. The support services to the President's sub-program, valued at 103 million, is described as including national commemorative advance, public engagements, and coordination of district oversight. But nowhere does it tell how this coordination is measured, reported, or verified. What we know, though, is this. While Vote 1 inflates, our municipalities collapse. While consultants grow, public engineers vanish. While NDAs spread, whistleblowers disappear. While PSP units expand, SOE balance sheets shrink. And while the presidency builds an empire of technocratic opaqueness, the people get more speeches and fewer services. This budget also pretends to fund reform, but it actually funds the insulation of the executive from the people it should serve. It funds the administration of market restructuring without the counterbalance of public interest and oversight. and it funds the creation of a parallel decision-making bodies, entities that are neither elected nor accountable, but are empowered to negotiate, contract, and plan in the name of the state. There's no line item for the NLCC or P4SA. There's no code for the TBSA PSP units operating under Vulindlela. There's no sub-program tracking the displacement of civil service roles by consultant frameworks. And yet, these activities are now in the heartbeat of executive economic planning. The figures in this budget may balance on paper, but they unbalance the future.
Honorable Gama, just hold on for a moment. Please take your seat. Honorable Deputy Minister, why do you want to be recognized?
I would like to check if the honorable member can take a question.
Thank you. Honorable Gama, are you prepared to take a question?
It depends who's asking. So South Africa is being
Okay, let's answer that one.
sector by sector, policy by policy, and budget by budget into a state that is administered by private design. That design is being implemented under the name of Operation Vulindlela and forced through Budget Vote 1 and shielded by a wall of plausible deniability funded through careful communications, legal teams, and strategic advisors. Let us call this what it is, executive defiance of constitutional accountability. We in the MK party cannot and will not legitimize that through our silence or our vote. The MK party rejects this vote.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honorable Deputy Minister in the Presidency, the Honorable Morolong.
House Chairperson, President of the people of South Africa, President Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, members of the National Executive, honorable members of Parliament, distinguished guests, fellow South Africans. We gather here today in this August House, just over a week after the passing of Ms. Teresa Solomon, yet another towering activist for equality, peace, and justice. We, the descendants of such a courageous soldier for peace, will forever remain indebted to Comrade T and her generation, who are born of the matriarchs of our struggle, women like Comrade T, as she was affectionately known in her community. She belonged to a generation of freedom fighters whose vision for the future was to nurture the belief that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, to foster a common loyalty to and pride in our country, and to cultivate a universal sense of freedom. As they articulated this vision through the Ready to Govern document in 1992, they understood that the democratic project was not a byproduct of peaceful negotiations, but the culmination of relentless struggles waged by the masses of our people, courageously led by the African National Congress. House Chairperson, we stand before this honorable House today to expound on the budget vote for the presidency, a vote that speaks directly to the heart of our constitutional democracy and the engine room of our national effort to build a better life for all. This budget is not merely an allocation of funds. It is an investment in the stability, capability, and vision required to steer South Africa towards its destiny. Section 83 of our Constitution defines the president as the head of state and head of the national executive, entrusted with upholding, defending, and respecting the Constitution as the bedrock of our democracy. Section 85 further charges the president with a solemn responsibility to execute this mandate through the powers vested in the high office of the land. The presidency, Honorable Speaker, is the pivotal institution established to support the president in fulfilling this immense constitutional duty. It is a nerve center of government responsible for strategic coordination, policy coherence, and ensuring the effective implementation of the electoral mandate across all spheres and departments. This budget vote directly resources the presidency to provide strategic support and advice to the president, coordinate the integrated program of government, manage the interface between the executive, parliament, and other constitutional bodies, oversee the national response to critical challenges and opportunities, safeguard the integrity and smooth functioning of the executive branch. This budget is therefore fundamental to ensuring that the president has a necessary capacity to lead decisively, constitutionally, and in the best interest of all South Africans. Honorable members, the vision of a capable, ethical, and developmental state is central to the mandate of our democratic government. This budget vote provides a critical resource to drive this transformation, focusing on three key pillars. The first pillar being the professionalization of the public service. A cornerstone of this effort is the establishment of the position of the head of public administration as mandated by the Public Administration Management Act. This is not merely an administrative step, it is a decisive move towards the professionalization of our state. This senior official will be singularly focused on driving standards of excellence, ethical conduct, and performance management across the public service. This budget allocates resources to ensure this office is empowered to set norms and standards, build capacity, combat corruption, and foster a culture of service delivery that truly prioritizes the citizen. It is an investment in the backbone of our developmental state. The second pillar being upholding accountability. Transparency and accountability are non-negotiable pillars of an ethical state. The president is constitutionally mandated to establish commissions of inquiry to investigate matters of significant public concerns, such as state capture and systemic failures. The presidency plays a vital role in facilitating the work of these commissions and crucially in processing their outcomes. This budget supports the necessary administrative and analytical capacity within the presidency to ensure that these findings and recommendations are meticulously considered, translated into actionable plans, and their implementation rigorously tracked. Those who seek to divide this country would have us believe that these commissions are a pointless exercise and a waste of public funds. Nothing could be further from the truth. The recovery of 11 billion in stolen assets is not wastage. It is the revenue channeled back into the fiscus to address essential public service and infrastructure development. Without the State Capture Commission, this money would never have been recovered, and our state will still be controlled by thugs and cowards who fled the country to evade accountability. The third pillar being fostering social cohesion. Our strength as a nation lies in our unity amidst diversity, recognizing the fractures in our social fabric. The president has championed the National Dialogue Initiative. The presidency provides critical coordination and secretariat support for these vital national conversation. Madam Speaker, this budget enables us to facilitate these dialogues across sectors and communities, creating safer spaces for South Africans to address underlying tensions, celebrate our shared identity, and collectively define the values that bind us. It is an investment in the intangible yet essential fabric of our nation, our sense of belonging, mutual respect, and shared destiny. Honorable members, the work of the presidency, the professionalization of the state, the pursuit of accountability, and the fostering of social cohesion is not a task of government alone. It requires the active participation and commitment of every South African. Honorable members, I'm certain that most of us in this democratic parliament would agree that we must call on our people to reject divisions and cynicism, actively participate in their communities and in the national dialogue, report corruption, hold all public representatives accountable through democratic instruments, champion the values of Ubuntu, respect, compassion, and shared humanity. The challenges we face are significant, but so is our collective resolve. Earlier, a discredited judge stood on this platform, reminding us why he became the first judge in history to be impeached. We remind South Africans that this disgraced former member of the bench.
Honorable Deputy Minister, just take your seat for a moment. I have hands in the chamber, and I have disruptions from the virtual platform. Let's go to the chamber first.
Ngiyakuthokoza Mgcini Sihlalo. Okhuluma la angazi ukuthi ukhuluma ngejaji likuphi ijaji namhlanje la ngoba angasimislead angasileli into engasiyo ne angakhuluma into engekho akakhulume ngento ekhulunywa namhlanje la angakhuluma into engekho kufana nalabo abakhuluma ngoZuma la uZuma akekho la. President Zuma is not in the house. Akuba bawe nje ukuthi akhe bajame. Ke bakhulume into ekhona. Siyazi kubhlungu.
Thank you, Honorable Skosana. You're not raising a point of order. You're making an argument. The Honorable Deputy Minister is within his rights to argue in this debate. I won't stop him at this point. Honorable Deputy Minister.
Sorry,
Just hold
Speaker.
on. Let me just go to the virtual platform as well. Honorable Reddy, firstly, before you speak, the rules clearly state that you to raise your hand and then the table staff will alert me to it. Please don't unmute and speak again before you are recognized. Why do you want to be recognized?
Yes, Honorable Acting Speaker, I did raise my hand. I was not seen by the table staff, so you can't blame me for that. I had to speak so that you could recognize me. But I rise in terms of Rule 64 because there's something very seriously wrong that's going on at the moment. You've noticed that a lot of deputy ministers have been speaking, and we need to keep the decorum of the House in place, and let's protect it at all costs and ensure fair debate. These deputy ministers are here speaking as members of the cabinet. So that's where they need to confine their speeches to. When they start going into the politics of matters, then it seems that the ANC is getting a disproportionate time.
Order.
Honorable Reddy,
now?
thank you.
Now already is debating. Yeah.
It's
Thank
not
you.
a
I've
debate.
heard
I'm
you.
raising it in terms of
Honorable
Rule
Reddy.
64.
Order.
I'm ready to deal with this issue.
Okay.
Thank you. Honorable Reddy and honorable members. Deputy ministers, members of the executive are fully entitled to participate in the debates in this house. Speaking time, furthermore, is allocated in terms of decisions by the Rules Committee on which all parties are represented. We are not going to prosecute what some members may experience as a disproportionate allocation of time during a plenary session of this House. Please take it to the Rules Committee. Honorable Deputy Minister, please continue.
Thank you very much. We remind South Africans that this disgraced former member of the bench was impeached following allegations of improper interference in a constitutional court case involving former President Jacob.
Order, honorable members.
His impeachment followed an inquiry by the Judicial
Honorable
Service
Deputy
Commission.
Minister, my apologies. Please take your seat. Honorable member at the back, why do you want to be recognized?
I'm rising on Rule 68. The deputy minister is irrelevant. And secondly, the people on the ground are asking who is this deputy minister.
But what is this thing now?
Thank you.
What is this thing?
Thank you, honorable.
Who are you?
Honorable member.
No.
Honorable member.
It's not allowed this thing, Honorable House Chair, and you're allowing it. Order.
Table staff, please assist in muting members on the virtual platform. Honorable member, I will deal with your point of order about relevance. Order. In the context of how this debate has transpired, your member who has just previously in this debate spoke at length about his perception. Order. I'm on the floor. Honorable member, if you're going to keep on interrupting me while I'm speaking, I'm going to act in terms of the rules. Your member who previously spoke at length to put an argument about his view on successes of previous administrations. I will give the Deputy Minister latitude to speak about the plans and what he deems to be the successes of the current administration in this debate. Deputy Minister, please continue.
His impeachment followed an inquiry by the Judicial Service Commission, which found him guilty of gross misconduct. Yet today, this former judge advocates for ministers to be dismissed without due process. The very due process he was afforded in an attempt to clear his name.
Speaker,
he failed spectacularly.
Honorable Deputy Minister, please take your seat. Honorable Skosana, why do you want to be recognized now?
Ngiyakuthokoza mqinisalo. honorable member akakhulumi into esizoyikhuluma la namhlanje. Ukhuluma ngejaji, ijaji alikho ngisayiphinda lento. Sibawa ukuthi akhulume into elanga phakathi. Last now honorable member.
Honorable Skosana and honorable members, we've dealt with this issue. The ruling is final. The ruling is final. I'm not going to entertain further points of order on this matter. The Honorable Deputy Minister is allowed to take part in the debate. Honorable Skosana, I'm warning you now. Please do not persist with this type of interruption.
Let me regurgitate this point.
Speaker.
This former judge advocates for ministers to be dismissed without due
Speaker.
process.
Honorable
The very same
Deputy
was
Minister,
afforded.
Honorable
Did not
Deputy Minister,
say his name.
Honorable Deputy Minister,
Failed spectator.
please just take your seat for a moment. Honorable Reddy, is that a new point of order?
Yes, it is. May I proceed?
Yes.
Honorable member, what is the relevance of this unknown minister?
No,
making
Honorable
these
Reddy.
points? There's no
No,
relevance
Honorable
to the
Reddy.
debate on presidency.
That's not how one
Reddy's
raises a
board,
point
man.
of order by
Honorable
asking the
Reddy,
member
can
at
you
the
remove
platform
him? Can
a
you please
question.
remove Reddy? No.
I also see the hand on the virtual platform of Honorable Lowe.
House Chair, can you really deal with the behavior of Honorable Reddy? He's really out of order. He's been disturbing the House for 3 times with irrelevant out of order. And you're allowing it. He's even calling you without even raising your hand. Please deal with it. We are begging you.
Thank you, Honorable Lowe. Honorable Gabu on the virtual platform has a hand up.
No, thank you very much, House Chair. I'm rising on Rule 66 of the Rules Chair. That really deals with an interruption of the Speaker on the podium. There is a well-coordinated effort from some members who are behaving like a rented crowd, disrupting the Deputy Minister while he's presenting. Can you protect the Deputy Minister from this rented crowd, Chair? Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Order, honorable members. Members are entitled to raise points of order. I've dealt with those. What we need to do now is to allow the Deputy Minister to proceed with the debate. We are not yet at the point where we are going to say that this is going to start getting grossly disorderly. But honorable members, let me add to that immediately. If you are going to persist with raising the same types of points of order with which I've dealt with, which are aimed at disrupting the Speaker at the podium whilst he's taking part in this debate, I will go to that specific rule. Honorable Deputy Minister, please continue.
Our democratic project is not going to be derailed by...
Honorable Deputy Minister, my apologies. Honorable Van Rooyen, why do you want to be recognized?
Thank you, Chair. Rule 85, there was an earlier submission from the visual platform indicating that some people are making inputs here because they are a rented crowd. I don't think that is parliamentary. It's casting aspersion. Can we please rule on that?
Yeah, thank you. That specific member didn't name names. And I've dealt with that specific intervention. Let's allow now the Deputy Minister to proceed.
In 2024, we established the Print and Digital Media Transformation and Revitalization Steering Committee comprising the CEOs of Media 24, Caxton, MTGA, Arena, Daily Maverick, Mail and Guardian, Independent Media, and AIP. Their mandate was to collaborate on identifying the best interventions to revitalize both community and commercial print media in the digital era. Soon we will release the final report, which outlines actionable and recommendations for implementation. However, Honorable Botlani, you are already well aware of these developments, as I have extensively reported on these matters in the Portfolio Committee. Honorable President, just about this time tomorrow, We will be unveiling a state-of-the-art studio donated through the MDDA to 1KZN TV. We are committed to developing and diversifying our media landscape. Community broadcasting speaks to the heartbeat of the nation, the local, the personal, the cultural, and the often unheard voices. This is the legacy of your leadership. This budget vote for the presidency equips the center of government to lead with constitutional fidelity, to drive the building of a capable and ethical state, and to foster unity we so deeply need. Let us move forward, not as a splintered voice, but as a nation united in purpose. Let us build a South Africa that truly belongs to all those who live in it, united in our diversity and prosperous in our shared future, as envisioned by our patriots such as Ms. Teresa Solomon. I thank you.